Okay, so let's get started. First of all, welcome, and thank you for giving up part of your Saturday to do this. This is the last in the series before we launch the ongoing program. Sorry, participants, there we go. There we go, and
you want to make me the co-host?
Yeah,
if that helps. And I don't know if we're recording this. I can't record it as it's your session.
Okay.
Used to be
Claim the host.
It is being recorded, yeah.
Why is it not claiming the host? I don't know. Ah, now mine isn't letting me do it. Right, okay, well, let's not faff around with this. In that case, what I'll do is I will leave when we're doing the slides and then come straight back in, but I'll transfer the control to you.
I can still share screen anyway, so it's not a problem.
Oh yeah, okay, well, if you can share screen, that solves it.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, so start again. This is the last of the three series, three in the series that we were doing. Candidly, we've put in hundreds of hours into this as experiments. I'm hoping many of you have and will be doing so in the future, because we're going to get a lot further, a lot faster together by sharing rather than by trying to do it all ourselves. If you want to make your spouses widows or widowers, then become a sad obsessive like I have, Suzanne. Yeah, hello, long-suffering wife over there. You will make a lot of mistakes and it will suck up a lot of your time. Save yourself a shed load of time by capitalizing on our idiocy and the collective idiocy of the group, because we're going to start collecting all of this stuff as a repository. We're going to make that available to everyone who's on the program so that you'll be able to steal prompts. And I'm going to give you a couple today in the demo. The demos that we're going to do, I'm going to show you some examples of just the power and potency of it very quickly. And then we're going to go into some really nitty-gritty, detaily ones around the sales role. And we're also going to give you the option of talking a little bit further at the end in terms of what you want from the program. We'll outline what's involved and what you'll get from it. And if you've got any questions, we'll cover those as well. The full paid program is $699 plus VAT. And I'm not going to go into detail about VAT. If you're in a business or you're overseas, you don't have to pay it. I think that's about it in terms of admin. Moeed, Suzanne, anything I've forgotten?
No, I mean, what you're going to get out of today's sessions are a few things. Number one, we're going to impress upon you the magnitude and the importance that ChatGPT represents to sales, business and society as a whole, but we're going to talk about really sales here. And really, we're at a bifurcation point. We're a fork in the road. And the future will be determined by those sales and business professionals that are able to use AI effectively. They will race ahead of everyone. So what we're going to communicate to you and share with you is just how important that is. We're going to talk to you about, it's not just about sales, right? Just like in the internet, that affected how buyers actually buy services. ChatGPT and AI is going to do the same. So we're going to talk to you about the buyer's perspective as well, how they are already using ChatGPT to help them in their purchasing process. And guess what? Helping them in their purchasing process is not necessarily going to be for the benefit of the salespeople. So that distance is going to be even bigger than it is now. And then the final thing we're going to do, as Marcus talked about, is how you can use ChatGPT. I read an article recently where people are being hired by Silicon Valley companies as prompt engineers for ChatGPT. And they're paying them, $350,000, which made me think maybe we're not charging enough for this, but that's essentially what they're doing. And so that's how important this is, and it's drawing a line in the sand. And we're going to help you understand how that can be used, how you can apply it, and what are the important things that you need to be aware of when you're trying to use ChatGPT, and what we're going to share with you as part of the program as well.
Excellent. So any questions at this stage? Thanks, Abdul. Any questions? Okay, so I think we should probably kick off with the first poll then.
Yeah, actually, good point. So let's start the first poll. Can I do it now since it's on your Zoom?
Oh, I don't know.
No, I won't be able to.
Right, okay, in that case, I will.
We can ask it. We can ask it now.
Just copy and paste and do it.
No, it won't allow me to do that.
All right, okay,
It's
no,
very odd.
Okay.
So what we'll do is actually I'm going to share my screen, and then you will be able to see what that poll is, and would like to get you your views on this. So if I just share this. So can you all see my screen right now? You should say biggest sales challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since there's only a few of us on here, it would be worth just hearing from you all individually. You can either type it in the chat and let us know, which one of these do you see as your biggest challenge when it comes to sales in general? So forget ChatGPT or AI or anything like that, just your challenge in terms of your sales approach and you getting the results that you wish. What would you say is your biggest challenge out of these options? So type that into the chat, please. Okay, so handling objections, complexity in buying, prospect segmentation. Right. So it seems to fall under, in general, well, there's two or three now. So there's establishing trust, that seems to be the winner. Finding the right prospects or connecting with the right prospects, complexity in buying, and then differentiation from the competition. So establishing trust being the highest or the most common, not surprising. It is the area from my own research with over 400 buyers where 100% of them use the word trust or honesty. Sorry, use the word honesty as part of the major reason why, and building trust was a very big part as to how they can view a salesperson as honest, right, and truthful. So that is not surprising at all. And very interesting that people have talked about, of course, finding and reaching the right prospects and the complexity of buying as well. I'm just going to stop sharing and then reshare another screen so that I can talk to you a bit about that. So as I said, what we're going to do here today is three things. One is we're going to talk about what ChatGPT can do, and we're going to cover your answers there around building trust. We're going to talk about the fact that buyers are using ChatGPT to take more control. That's only going to make that trust equation a lot harder. And it's also going to make connecting with those buyers harder. And guess what? It will increase complexity in the sales process as well. And so what we're also going to look at is how you can then use ChatGPT to streamline your sales process, how you can use it to build more trust from the very beginning, how you can use it to engage with buyers in a better way, and also how you can use it to reduce the complexity of the sales process. In particular, reduce the iterations of the experience or the actions that are being undertaken within the buyer-seller relationship that contributes to increased complexity. So we're going to show you how how ChatGPT can do all of that. But before we do that, I have a quick kind of fun quiz to go through with all of you. And this is just going to impress upon you the power, the horsepower behind AI, and particularly ChatGPT. So can anyone, and write it in the chat, can anyone guess as to the IQ of an average person in the West, right? So this is not across the whole world, but just an average person who lives in the West. What would you say is the IQ of the average person? So if you can just stick that into the chat, please. 16, okay. Certainly seems like that sometimes. Yeah. 70. Any other guesses? 80. Yeah, 170. Good. Yeah. So the answer is 90. Right. So the average IQ of someone living in the West is 90. Now, all of you hopefully will recognize this gentleman, Albert Einstein. Can anyone guess as to the estimated IQ that this person has? Because obviously the tests were formulated after his death. Anyone can guess as to his IQ level? So 160. Any other guesses? 140. Yep, 140, 180. So in the ballpark, correct. 160 to 180. So this person, I'll be very surprised if anyone knows him. I didn't know him before researching this. A gentleman by the name of Anan, can't remember his full name. He's about 23 years old now. Can anyone guess as to his IQ? And just to give you context, he has the highest IQ ever recorded. So what would you guess his IQ was or is? $230, 200 plus. Yep. 210, 177. Yeah. So his IQ is at 263, which is astounding when you think how high that is compared to someone like Albert Einstein. Now, can anyone guess as to, I'm not looking for the exact number, I'm looking at the multiplier. So how many more times higher does an existing AI right now, in terms of IQ, in terms of horsepower, how much times more horsepower does AI have compared with the average person who lives in the West? Can anyone guess as to the multiple times? So 5 times, 10 times higher, etc. Yep, we have 100 times. Any other guesses? Take a wild stab. 1,000. Yeah. Just keep adding zeros. That's pretty good. Yeah. So I want to give you some context before I give you this answer. Albert Einstein is known for some of the greatest advances in terms of thinking, theory, as well as practicals, things like GPS, etc., in human history. And he was 2 point something times more IQ than the average person living in the West. AI doesn't have 1,000, 10,000, even it's a million. And I just want you to absorb the magnitude of that horsepower for a moment. And we're not talking in terms of intelligence. We're talking in terms of IQ. So IQ, the definition of IQ is it measures your reasoning ability. So reasoning ability is your ability to assess things rationally by applying logic-based calculations on new and existing information in order to make a decision. So it's about ingesting amount of information, right? And being able to draw logically some conclusions to help you make a decision and therefore take an action. Albert Einstein is at 160 to 180. AI is 1,000,000 times more than the average person. So just think about how much power you have at your fingertips for free, right? So no longer, and the good news is you don't have to be an Albert Einstein in order to be able to use ChatGPT. You just have to be competent and know how to use it. But you have access to horsepower like never before in human history. And just think about the limitation here is really just 2 things. It is your curiosity and your imagination. That's all. It's just your curiosity and your imagination in order to use this horsepower as much as it possibly can be used. And that's what we're going
ask,
to show you today.
Can I ask a very quick question? How many of you today are using ChatGPT? Can you put it in the chat, either yes or no, or I'm too afraid to start?
Yeah, so a lot of yeses and some rarely or sometimes.
Okay, so it's relatively mixed. And what are you using it for? What different functions or activities?
Yeah, so messaging and research seems to be coming out, and I'm putting messaging as a category, a big category for emails, content, proposals, right?
Okay, so next question then. How many of you are using it to inspire your creativity as a seller or as a customer service or manager? Interesting. Okay. 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 Right. So generally not. At the moment, you're using it for more functional things, which is normal. The good news is it's brilliant at that stuff, and that will free up time for you to start thinking better and deeper. You're after answers. You're after answers from your prospects. You're after answers from your research. But the quality of the answers will depend entirely on the quality of the questioning and how you frame them. So I hope that you'll take some of that away today. And without any further ado, I'm going to let Mohit carry on because you'll get to see what I mean.
No, that's a really, really good point. So why don't we look at this from the buyer's perspective now? Because, you know, in the early 2000s, when the internet democratized information, it democratized access to wisdom. Now, it hasn't turned out that way. In fact, we are drowning in information. We're starving for wisdom. And AI is going to be another step in that evolution. And so what we're seeing is that buyers are starting to already use ChatGPT to make them far more informed than they ever were. So if we share another poll, and we want to just get your thoughts on this particular question here. So give me a second. And that is this question here. So what are your biggest fears about the future for salespeople in the age of AI or ChatGPT? It doesn't have to be sales, it could be marketing if you're involved in marketing, or customer success, customer service. If you're a business leader on this call, then answer it in your own context, but in sales that you need to conduct in your own business. What would you say are your biggest fears around the future of sales itself in the age of AI? And you have 4 options there. So please share your options, the one that's most relevant to you. Right, effectively integrate it. Option 1, yep, it will replace me entirely. Yeah, so it seems to be mostly option 1 and 2. There is one option 4 there. Oh, sorry, mostly options 1 and 3. One option 4, and I think a couple of option 2 there. Yeah, so that's interesting. So it's mostly options 1 and 3. I think 3 has taken the lead there, which is how to effectively integrate it in the sales process. So people are unsure of how to do it. Again, very normal. It's brand new. It's like the smartphone. We'll talk about that later on, but it's like the smartphone. Anyone still remember their elderly parents or grandparents using smartphones for the first time, right? How painful was that, right? I'm not suggesting we're all like our grandparents. I'm just suggesting it's very normal for something brand new like this to kind of, we have to get used to it. And the thing with AI is even technology experts that live and breathe it are still learning how to use it in the best possible way. So we're all, this is all very new in terms of our human and technology evolution. And so not surprising.
Did you see what happened yesterday? That the big tech companies now have made a call to stop research into AI until we know what the hell we're doing with it. So, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So let's talk about this, because your buyers are facing the similar challenge actually in terms of how to integrate it. But they will have resources dedicated to doing so, particularly in the macroeconomic environment that we're in. They're looking for any edge that they can get, not just in terms of over salespeople or anything like that, but any edge in their business. And that fundamentally involves the way that they interact with suppliers, the way they interact with partners, right? That's going to obviously change. And they're very motivated to do so because they don't want their competitors to take an edge over them. This is going to have an impact in terms of Porter's 5 forces, the industry dynamics. So the first thing they're already doing is they're using ChatGPT to research about products, right? So products from vendors. So think about what that means. There's less of a need for vendor information, right? Right now, they would do their own research and they will contact the vendor for validation. So how many of us have received RFPs, for example, RFQs, where they would send you literally a list of features or functionalities, and they would ask you to do a tick the box exercise, and then they will say, can you do any of those things? It's clear that they've been educated in some way about those features and functionalities. But whether those are the right things or not doesn't matter. They've been informed by some way, shape, or form through either their experience or through third-party information or their own kind of self-research, that those things are the functionalities they need to consider. ChatGPT, they're using now to take that into a far more advanced way. And so what does that mean for you as salespeople? Well, it's pushing us more towards in that spectrum of order taker. And that means that we have less influence. The other thing that they're using already is that they are using it to, and it's not just now product research, they're using it in terms of vendor research as well. So they're taking their research about understanding about your reputation, right? The quality of your service, the quality of your product, your customer experience. They're doing a SWOT analysis on you. They're using ChatGPT to get far deeper insights into this. And so what that means is that need for us to have more timely and accurate information about what it is that we do. So think about it. Yeah,
I interviewed one of the top procurement people globally, Jill Robbins, on how the industry, the buying profession, is adopting AI. And what she said was that they're using it to really do a deep dive on existing contracts, on costs, on ROI, on service levels, and also to renegotiate. The technology is now available for them to be able to map the sources of their revenue through the technology that they bought, and to be able to track every single cent of revenue and spend and see what happens if we remove this bit of functionality or we stop working with that supplier. And they're able to visualize this. Now, imagine what that means for you as a seller in terms of how you better turn up far more prepared and able to differentiate. And like Mohit said earlier on, the speed is really important. The agricultural revolution, you had 2,000 to 3,000 years to catch up. The industrial revolution, you had about 200. The internet, you had 15 to 30. And this, we reckon you've got about 4 months. Not because you can't learn it afterwards, but all the choicest bits of business and the best accounts will already be being predated or won by people who are armed with this technology and the right kind of technology stack and mindset. So you can be a one-person sales army using this technology. I mean, how many of you who are using it have been able to claw back more than 1 hour a day or do something in a collapsed time frame that left you literally breathless and giggling? In the chat or speak out. Yeah.
Yeah, I have not been using it except to generate some email content and things like that. So no, or to validate content that my marketing team has created. Not really to generate new ones. I don't understand enough of it to be able to use it the way that you guys are mentioning it right now.
Lease agreements, that's interesting. Okay.
So Jordi, you missed the question. The question was, how many of you have used ChatGPT to severely shorten the time it takes you to do a particular task? And when you did so, it just left you breathless and really excited and almost giddy. And we've seen examples of, and I've used it myself for my own stuff, where you would build whole campaigns and it would take you days to create the whole campaign. And with ChatGPT, it can take you 2 hours.
Structure for application in Deluge script. Right, okay, so how many of you have used it to write code? Translate. I'll show you an example in a minute, which will just blow your mind.
And so to what Marcus said, actually, and there's a danger with writing code using ChatGPT, which we'll come on to later on. But just to complete how buyers are using this, Marcus mentioned around negotiations. They're already using this to basically be able to squeeze vendors even more. And it's not just about what you might think in terms of negotiation strategies. It's really creative how they're using it. They're going to be able to interrogate ChatGPT to understand the market rates, for example. And people are saying, well, it's not ChatGPT is not accurate, it's not current information, it's not a search engine. Microsoft have already integrated ChatGPT into their new Bing, and I've been playing around with this for the last few days now, ever since it came out. And it integrates search with that. Now, Bing is not as advanced as Google, but you're already seeing that potential where you can integrate not only finding information, but what that information means and how that can inform your outbound strategy or your communication. So we're already seeing that where they're looking at market rates for particular functionality or particular products, right? What are the costs involved in delivering a product like this? And therefore, how can I squeeze them on areas that I can see that they're kind of benefiting from high margin on something, right? So they're already doing that. They're looking at things like contract terms. So you can interrogate ChatGPT to give you ideas around different terms given the context of what's important for you. And therefore, they can use that and arm themselves with that when they go into a negotiation situation with you. So they're really going to squeeze you here. And then if you don't come highly prepared and highly knowledgeable, then you're going to find yourself caught off guard, or one of your competitors who's already seen this and already using ChatGPT and other technologies to overcome that, they're going to pull ahead in the bidding war with you. So it's really vital that we understand that. And then the final thing is, they're using it to get customized recommendations. Now, I've received this point from others where they said, well, it's not accurate, it's not up to date. And here's the thing, and because of my neuroscience background and behavioral psychology, I can tell you that it doesn't matter, because it's helping them form an opinion. And that is dangerous because it creates cognitive biases. So they may still want to validate it, but we have, and there are so many tests and research and experiments done on this, where people will believe information that's given to them by a computer over a human being. And these tests have happened since the 70s, 80s, you know, when Steve Jobs first started producing the Mac, etc. People tested this to see, why is it that human beings will trust information from a computer more than another human being, right? And you might say, well, you know, we can help kind of alleviate that, but let me tell you, it's very hard to convince someone to change their mind on information that they've already kind of emotionally wedded to. And so this is a dangerous thing that ChatGPT is able to do, because they're asking it for options. And if they're asking it for options, guess what? If you're not even on the list of those options, you're not even going to get the seat at the table, right? So there are ways around this, but we're just here to tell you right now that this is how buyers are already using ChatGPT to advance their agenda, their interests, right? And so we wanted to impress this upon you, because it's not just about us as salespeople using ChatGPT. You've got to know what the other side are using it for as well. And forewarned is forearmed, because then you can actually change and adapt your sales process in this current or new environment that's being created right now. Should we do the demo, Marcus, that you mentioned, that you wanted to show them that creative approach that you used? I think you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. Yes, excellent. Let's do that. Okay, so share screen. Cool. Continue. Let us come out of. Where's that gone? There. I rarely have a lot of things open, of course. So here we go. That will be that. There we go. Right. Okay. So, a couple of things before we get started. As Moeed said earlier on, a fool with a tool is still a tool. You can ask really bad queries, so let me tell you how to do that, so that we can just put a pin in it straight away. The first thing is, don't use broad language, be specific. Okay, broad language when you're asking your questions is going to leave it struggling. So, you know, ask, what's the capital of France? Don't ask, can you tell me about something about France? Okay, try and be specific, and you'll see as I start developing the queries that there's a thought process, and you know, one thing leads to another, and as you get more practiced with it, you'll find that you'll build these queries up, and then you'll have to iterate. I'll show you one that wasn't very good, but then we ended up with something that was that I'm really pleased with eventually. But you have to iterate. Okay. Second thing is using vague language. What can you tell me about this specific topic versus do you have any information on this subject? I need the specifics. So direct the chat to specific areas. ChatGPT, as I understand it, goes out to data that was on the internet pre 2 years ago, and it goes out to only 11% of it. Now, you know how nuts the internet is, and you come from families, so you know how screwed up they are too. Okay, Philip Larkin was right. They muck you up, your mum and dad. They don't mean to, but they do. They fill you with all the faults they had and add some extra just for you. Okay, so that's a human condition. And that's the pool that it's picking from. So you need to direct it to the right 11%. And that's what asking the right questions is about. Okay, use complete sentences. Don't use fragments, don't use slang, don't use improper grammar. Okay, try and create as little friction for it as possible whilst it learns. And remember, it only learns from within your thread. It doesn't work within all the other threads, sadly. Okay, but there are tools that help you to tie all that stuff together, but that's subject for another day. Okay, you're limited by your imagination. So I'll give you an example of just how you can narrow stuff down. Okay, so I put this really vague search term in. Okay, then I put this in. Oops, where's that gone? Okay. Oh, no. So just with those two shitty bits of information, we found Simone Weil, okay, who's actually remarkably influential. So then, what did she say about empathy and agency? Okay, so she was quite famous for this. Okay. And let's find the next. What's my ball? Phones here. Pull the whoops. Sorry, in fact, better than this. Pull Weil's most famous quotes in French, translate them into English. Okay. Any Kazakh speakers? Now, if you aren't blown away by this, I'm baffled. I mean, Maltese, for God's sake, there are 350,000 people on the planet that speak it. Well, actually, well, maybe 450,000, because our parents typically spoke Maltese behind our back and left us to learn whatever other language we lived with. Okay, but I mean, just think about the potential of this. Okay, where does your imagination take you? In the chat, think of one completely just off the wall idea that you've always wanted to test and you've never known how. Okay, now, next. Okay, where's the chat gone? Oh, there we go. Right, okay, so what the things that you were looking at there? Okay, is there any available AI interface? No, but what you can do is you can update it. So one of the things I really like to do is paint the scenario for the macroeconomic situation and the backdrop. So one of the prompts you might want to develop is the economic situation and the psychological states of your prospects. You know, what have they gone through in the last 3 years? Describe the financial and economic state. Yeah, this stuff is really interesting because then it affects them. You know, you could talk about a Series B CFO in a SaaS company, middle of their Series B, but they weren't really catering for interest rates and inflation, and they weren't catering for the cost of hiring people. And as a result, they've got a massive hole that they have to try and fill. Okay, that's a psychological backdrop that I'm going to sell into, and I'm trying to sell them something they think is a nice to have. What kind of objections are they going to come back with? Yeah. So is creating a house of aircrete safe and long lasting? I don't ask it. Let's give it a go. Okay, here we go. And zap. I take it I'm doing some marketing for you. No, this is GPT 3.5. This is the one everyone can use. Okay, now there is GPT 4, okay, which we'll go to. It's a lot slower. In fact, that's probably worth showing. So, old GPT, yeah, reasoning pretty good, not very fast, bit wordy. Current GPT, very fast, reasoning not bad, okay, but GPT-4, slow, but really worth the effort. And you do have access to it, I believe, free. However, they throttle you in terms of your usage, okay? And in all honesty, $20 a month for this, I mean, seriously, if you're whining about that, you're probably in the wrong industry. Okay, and the reason you pay the 20 is to get the access, and absolutely cheap as chips. I suspect they're after market share and will all be screwed later. Also look at other ones like Jasper. Dustin Ripito swears by Jasper, and he thinks it's better for language, for copy. He doesn't use it to write it, he uses it to develop it and to test it. It's exactly 4 fibers. Okay, so let's put one of the next one in. Okay, so how do I construct an effective product demo, and when should I demo for the highest impact and likelihood of closing? When should I not demo? How does my buyer qualify and earn the right to a demo? Okay. See how much slower this is. But it's a lot more thorough. Okay. Okay, so sorry, I should talk while I'm doing it. So I disagree with what it said. Again, you need to use judgment and experience. Okay, but what I want to do is I want it to move I want it to use its own logic, okay, to refine the query. Okay, so BANT's a powerful tool when used internally within a vendor organization. When you ask BANT questions of buyers, they don't advance their understanding or give them any advantage to answering. And I think Moeed will back this up. They actually trigger the insula in the buyer's brain, which creates disgust and contempt as the emotional feeling. Improve your approach using your own logic of ensuring the buyer is qualified, but accomplish the qualification through a solutions-focused questioning style, using a mom's test style interview. What I want you guys to have by the end of the program is the ability to self-coach, to rehearse, to plan. So in terms of the output, you're going to understand the full potential, and also how to use it to apply good business tools and good business practices in order to keep you on the straight and narrow. Because I think one of the problems that we face very often is that we believe our own rhetoric. Yeah. And one of my favorite prompts is take the opposite view. Take the position of a hostile buyer. Yeah, throw every objection you can think of against my hypothesis. Because I want to be stress tested and I want to practice before I go in to see customers. Right? Tell me, in terms of the amount of effort that prior to this technology you had to put in to secure one first meeting with a buyer, how many hours, how many touches, how many emails, whatever, but how much effort would you have to put in to get one opportunity to the point where they're willing to have a conversation with you about their problem? Is it 30 dials, 25?
If I can add to that, Marcus,
Please.
You can spend a long time doing research, and maybe with a show of hands, or you can type it in if you've experienced this. You can spend an hour or two researching a company, researching the buyer, but then there's the next stage, which is the really difficult one, which is, okay, now what? What do I do with that information, right? I've figured out that my buyer is a CFO who is in an environment where they're having to cut costs aggressively by about 30%. They're worried about cutting too deep into the muscle, but they just want to cut the fat. I have a product that can help them with automating their financial systems, whatever it might be. I figured out that from their annual report that they're doing this. Now what? And so it would take you probably about the same amount of time, maybe less, just to figure out what to do with that information, because knowledge is only potential power. It means nothing until it's applied properly. And so the application part of that would take you quite a bit of time. And guess what? There's usually trial and error, right? In order to refine the application, and the output of all that information takes years of experience. Well, when done correctly, ChatGPT can reduce that in a matter of minutes. And so I used it when I was speaking to a CFO in an industrial manufacturing company. Don't know much about the product, haven't come across it before. But I asked them the question, which was, which I always ask at the end of a call, which is, how did I do as a salesperson? What was it about my approach that you liked and didn't like? And one of them, he said, it's clear that you're really knowledgeable about my industry. But I've never really worked in this industry. I just did some research and used ChatGPT so that I can say the right things, i.e. use the right language that's relevant to someone in that industry. So in terms of building trust, which a lot of you answered in the first poll, I'd use ChatGPT to use the right language in my output to build trust. It wasn't the only thing, but there were several other things. So I just wanted to add that in there, because it's not just about, and someone put in a note there about, if you mislead ChatGPT, can you kind of trick it to give you wrong answers? Probably.
Yes. You absolutely can.
And there have been tests doing that, yes, but that's not in your interest to do so. But what you can do is what Marcus said, which is, okay, give me an alternative point of view, because my buyer is probably going to have an alternative point of view. And why would someone believe that alternative point of view? What are the reasons behind that? And what would change that person's mind? What would make them consider my point of view? What language should I use that is of benefit to that CFO, for example, in that industry, where those things are really important for them? What are those metrics that are going to be very important for them? Why is it going to be important? So don't think of it as just research. When you've done and you can input the research in there, but it's about, what do I do with that information now? And how can I get the most accurate information, or better accuracy of information, in the shorter space of time?
So to build on your point and Noah's question around misleading it, you do have to be very, very careful, especially with stuff that may not have a lot of data around it, because it will make shit up. Try putting your own name in and ask it to write your bio without giving any other detail, and see just exactly how incredible you are, even though you've never done lots of this stuff. So it needs to be handled under advisement, that it's only as clever as the questions you point it towards. Okay, now good practices: be very specific, use natural language, speak to it, type in and speak to it as if it is a human being, but be clear. Remember, it's a really intelligent idiot. It's like it's got the capabilities of a child, coupled with 1 million times the horsepower of pretty much any human being, including that Aaron character. I mean, can you imagine how bored he must be? 267 IQ, and then the rest of us patrolling around. Bloody hell. So how close to reality is this? Zero, there you go. So it does spew out an awful lot of shit if you feed it bad questions or you are too vague. Then put context, time, macroeconomics, microeconomics, business life cycle. I mean, your imagination, your business acumen is going to be your limit. I'm not proud of this, and I'm delighted that Suzanne didn't post this, although now that I'm saying it, I suspect she will. Because she bought me these AirPod Pros, which are fabulous little things. Yeah. And apparently I can program the stump to act as, you know, volume or something else. But because it just headphones, I shove them in my ear and I think, okay, that's what they do. But I've never really looked beyond that. Now, through the program, what you will do is get exposed to how we're using it, but also to how other people are using it. And that, I think, is the real value in this kind of community learning. Because you've got to have time to think about the problem and go away and play. Then you're going to bring those solutions or those ideas together, and we're going to grind up against one another. And then we're going to synthesize how you can improve it. So it's not a training program, it's a guided learning program, yeah, which is all hands-on. So you're going to need to have your ChatGPT up because you're going to be doing this stuff all the way through. Okay. Now, what else do we need to look at? We need to, yeah. Okay. So you're going to guide me and I'm going to do a competitor analysis exercise. Okay. So in the chat, I want you to post the queries that you would like me to ask ChatGPT, and then let's come up with a composite of all of our thinking.
Gentlemen, everyone, this is your chance if you want to get some test out on one of your products or services.
Okay, let's do. Okay, I'm going to go with Linda's. Okay. So, CMOS as a product. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is, based on the generic response that you're getting, where do you see gaps? Put those in the chat. Where do you think it's got it wrong? What do you think it's missed? Okay. So gain insight into the adoption curve. There we go. Right. Okay. So help me. Put it in the chat, Suzanne. I can't hear. Ah.
Linda made a point there as well, which is there isn't anything about tasting it or tasting the product in the post.
Yeah.
And I think that's because it doesn't know it. Yeah.
That's the next question going in.
Oh, okay.
You can see it. I just want to make sure. That's why I'm interrupting you.
Yes, I can see it now.
You can. Okay. So sorry. Right. Carry on. Make your point.
No, that was my point. That's why we just put that in. Yeah, because it doesn't know necessarily what CMOS is, right? Until you give it the description, probably.
Okay.
Oh, here we are. Okay. Ah, right. Okay. My mistake.
So research, planning, strategy, testing your thesis, creating messaging, understanding your customer, knowing your customer intimately, understanding the human being. Moeed, what's the research on this? About
on what, sorry?
About salespeople and where their focus of attention is in terms of the financials, the ROI, the technical, but nothing around the people.
Yeah. So so the research is about business value versus personal value, what I call emotional value. Research done by CEB, now Gartner, Motista, and Google found that personal value has doubled the impact of business value in the B2B sales process. 68% of, yeah, so what that means is 68% of buyers who see personal value are more likely to buy a product. 72% of buyers who see personal value are more likely to pay a higher price for the same product than if they were just given business value. And so what that means is, what does this product give me in terms of my personal needs and requirements? For example, one of the things I did with one of my clients that helped dramatically increase their sales was the fact that their product helped one of their clients get promoted 3 times. And so being promoted, that personal growth, is personal value versus the traditional ROI that we would talk about from a business perspective. So what does it mean to me personally as a buyer? Will it advance my career? Will it advance what's important to me in terms of my human needs? Whether that's growth, whether that's certainty, whether that's love or connection, or whether that's contribution, whatever it is. How does your product, you have to think about how your product impact, because you're selling to the brain, not the company.
And that's really important to remember. And this is where we get so many salespeople get it so wrong. I don't know if you've read The Jolt Effect. Matt Dixon, who is Moeed's mentor over at Gartner and CEB. And Moeed's done this very similar research. What we know is that buyers, about 15 to 20% of the way through the buying cycle, are no longer interested in the features and functions or the better future. What they're doing is they're catastrophizing, because the brain's natural response to uncertainty is to go to the worst case scenario. Okay, now, how often are we bombarding our customers and our prospects with messages that are not timely, that are not relevant, and they're not valuable to them? Yeah. So any touch that fails to be timely, relevant, or valuable is just an interruption. Okay. So Moeed, if you can go back to the buyer's journey slide. Okay. How often are we trying to touch the customer with a sales motion, which is only appropriate about 15 to 20% of the way through section 3? Okay. And afterwards, that's when they're ready to have a sales conversation. Up until then, your buyer, in first thought and making space, doesn't know what the problem is. They just know there are some symptoms that are bothering them. And so they're making space to try and work out what the problem is and what's causing it. Then they move into passive looking. This is where they consume your content. They don't engage with you. The only reason they will engage with you is if for some reason your message hits them at a time that is appropriate, that it's relevant to them and helps them understand how they can advance their understanding or move closer to the outcome they intended or they intend from making this investment. Yeah. Now, we have to keep their brain calm, receptive. But if we create the conditions where we put them under pressure to try and have them meet us where we want them instead of where they are, because we're trying to use BANT, we're trying to have them fit into our sales process, that we're trying to give ourselves the illusion of control over the sale. The paradox of all of this is that if you want control, you have to give it up. If you want other people to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable first. If you want things to speed up, you have to slow down. And that's what this program is all about. It's making sure that you identify your buyer, who they are, and when they will be ready to receive which message, so that when you deliver your hypothesis, you enter their world in a unique and original way that no one, including them or any of their trusted advisors, has ever come to them with. And that's the promise of this program. At the end of it, you will have the ability to formulate that kind of output so that you can get invited in by impossible to reach decision makers. These are the people who are not picking up their phone, who don't respond to email. Yeah. And that's what I hope you're getting a taste of from today. Any questions or any thoughts at this stage? Right, so Geordie, in terms of mapping an account, prioritizing who's on site, who's off site, I used it this morning to create a call debriefing framework. Now, I instructed it, but I want it to interview salespeople on my website so that they can download this report and then they can upload their old report and continue to develop it so that their pre-call plan is then fed by their post-meeting debrief. And then that goes back into feeding their next pre-call plan for the next step. And it highlights any gaps. Now, I'm really good at putting this stuff together, but I'm terrible at being able to administer it. For me, this is a godsend. I've been pulling together stuff that I've been thinking about for about 7 years and haven't been able to coordinate and structure. I put together a 48-week program in 12 minutes. And it wasn't half bad, actually. It was just an experiment. But just think about the capability that's right at your fingertips. So in the remaining 12 minutes, tell us what you want. Tell us what you've got from this program so far. What have you learned? And Geordie, yes, to mobilizers. How are you going to do that? How are you going to identify the mobilizers? Yeah.
And also, if someone's a critic, and if someone is apathetic towards it, you can ask it, why would someone be critical about this? And then describe the individual. And then ask it, how would you overcome it? Or what suggestions would you have for overcoming it? What would this person be interested in? What would be important to them? There's a framework that we've created, which is the CRM framework, which we'll be using for all of those in the program. And if you use that framework, you pretty much give it all the advanced prompts that you need in order to get the best possible answers. So just going back to Marcus's question, what have you all kind of understood from this? What big aha moments or new things have you learned from what we've discussed today? We're very interested to hear people's perspectives here. Buyers will do their best to get us to sharpen our pencils, but we can prepare for the steel ourselves. Yep. Well, so Chad, so I've interviewed 428 buyers to date. I will say something that is painful for a lot of salespeople to hear. They won't do their best to get you to sharpen their pencils. They're going to do their best to sharpen their own pencils. If you sharpen yours, and if you don't sharpen yours, that's your problem, right? That's how harsh buyers are. So I just want to kind of adapt the language there, just so that we're clear. They're sharpening their own pencils. It's up to you to sharpen yours in response.
Geordie, I'm going to put a link to an article I wrote around something called PCOS. It's a price improvement cost optimization strategy. It was developed by the former head meat buyer for Walmart. So bear in mind, this is a guy who spent his career buying from abattoir owners. And then he went to General Motors and became head of procurement. Now, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with GM, but they have a ruthless procurement process.
I've dealt with
Utterly ruthless. And it was all built on that. So I'm sending you the link to it, because it's 120 different ways that buyers use your emotional manipulation to take advantage of you and get you to sharpen your pencils and give stuff away. So yes, Oz, it's in the chat now. Overcoming barriers to entry. Yes, good. Okay. Benefit preparation. Okay. Right, good. Okay. So if any of you would like to, I'm going to put the link to the program in the chat. There's absolutely no pressure. If you want to join, it's $699 plus VAT. There is also a coaching option where you can get both of us coaching you as well. So if that's something that's of interest, then please also click on that. The link is coming in the chat now.
And just to clarify the details for this, it's 6 modules where we cover these 6 areas. And all 6 of those will end up with the final thing, which is how you're going to not only develop a powerful hypothesis, but all the way right from the messaging as well. So your preamble email, messages on LinkedIn, you know, what are the kind of articles or information that they're going to be most interested in at that particular time that they're involved in, right? So whatever it is they're involved in their business. If you hear news about them, you can add that into ChatGPT process to then inform your approach. So all of that we will talk about in this. And so those are the 6 modules. It's group sessions. These are live sessions, and we're going to be giving you homework. So the whole point of this is not to teach you like a training program. Marcus and I are very passionate about this, and because of my neuroscience background, all of my programs are baked within this as the neuroscience of learning, right? Which is about how to apply this so it actually means something. Like I said, knowledge is just potential power. So you're going to get that homework. You're going to apply it to your business. You're going to come back to the next session as a group and share ideas. What was your experience? How can we help you refine that? So you're going to get those 6 modules and access to the recording, lifetime access to the recording. That's password protected for you. But there are also the options for coaching if you want to take that. There are some options that people will take up around wanting, one-on-one time with me and Marcus on this. And the reason why is, and we've seen this in ChatGPT, and this is really, really important to take note of. We found, and Marcus gave the example of coding, which I talked about earlier as well. You can't just go into ChatGPT and ask it to create a code. You've got to have the fundamental knowledge and skill for whatever it is that you're interrogating ChatGPT on. So if you don't know coding, you're not going to get as much out of it as someone who has experience in coding. It's the same with this for sales. And what you're going to get as part of this is not just ChatGPT, it's the fundamental tried and tested principles of high performance sales that we're going to bring into this. And we have tons of recommendations, etc., from clients to show that. So what you're seeing is our skills coming into how you question it and how you formulate the basis of the answers that you want to get. So this is just to let you know, this is not just about ChatGPT. This is about how we're going to impart some of our knowledge and information and some of those skills and principles of high performance sales into this. So you're going to get the best of both. So just to be clear on that, and having the elite package will give you that, but you don't have to have that. You will get some of that already with the starter and the master package if you so wish.
We're coming very close to time. We'd love to take any questions, and also please, ruthlessly critical feedback. Is there anything that didn't work well for you? We're not going to be offended. We want the feedback. We need the beating. Let's pretend we're masochists, and just give us a good kicking. If there's any way that we can improve this and help you make it better for you, then let us know.
Abdul, I'll just check now why the link is not working for you.
The sessions will absolutely be recorded, and you will have lifetime access to them if you're on the program. And you will also have lifetime access to the prompt library, which we will continue to build because this ain't going away. Cheers, James. Yeah, absolutely good kicking, but it goes both ways. Trust me. This is not a program for wallflowers and people who want to be spectators. This is a full blood, full contact blood sport where we're going to go out there, we're going to practice this thing, we're going to mess it up. There are three types of thinking that we're going to tap into. We're going to tap into divergent thinking, where we disagree, convergent thinking, where we can find that actually after we've disagreed, we find what's true and we can validate. And then there's synthesis, and that's the best bit. Those are the people getting paid 350 grand a year. Yeah, the ones who can join the dots. And this technology is going to give you that capability to be able to start joining the dots and then automating that. So you will be the best prepared, the most well-researched, the most well-practiced, and the most provocative seller that your buyers will meet. So, very excited.
Any questions, thoughts? Love to hear them. We've got some time. You have us for the next 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be about the program. It could be about ChatGPT in general.
Well, whilst you're still on, could you write in the chat what you do for a living or what you sell? I'd be really interested in that.
Chad, you said talk about the 4 months thing again. Do you mean in terms of the time it will take, where competitors are probably going to outcompete? It's only going to take 4 to 6 months for them to do so? Yeah. Marcus, do you want to talk about that?
Okay, well, think about it. You've seen today, I hope, a glimmer of the potential. There are people like you and me out there doing this every single day. Suzanne will attest to this. I'm probably spending 4 to 10 hours on this each day in one form or another, because I'm using it to reference, to test, and just going back in all the time. I know Jared Robin he was on an AI call with Lisa Palmer and I, and he said that he did in 2 hours what would have taken him 2 months. Okay, now you do not have the luxury of waiting, I believe, because those people, us, will be getting ahead. You've seen some of the potential today with the with the output of that program. Can you imagine the difference if someone is equipped to do the research on their market, do the research on the customer, be able to make really good assumptions about their psychological state, about their communication preferences, about the political state that they're operating in because of the economic conditions, rehearsing, role-playing, doing all of that stuff, instead of what most salespeople do, which is turn up and wing it. I mean, how many of you today do really good customer research and you know your customer well enough so that you could probably do the job of the most junior person in the department that the person you're selling to is in about 3 weeks? Are you that prepared? Are you putting 3 hours of research in for every hour you're in front of the customer and practice? Right. Well, you don't have to do the research quite so much now because it's easy to do. It's simple to do. Yeah. But what you don't have to worry about is faffing about with all the administration, because all of that can be taken care of. How many of you are using it for admin? Just taking care of day-to-day process? No? Okay, you know that there are scripts out there today to suck the data out of LinkedIn Navigator so that you can build ICP-based prospect lists, really narrow them down, and then truly personalize. None of this, dear homeowner or whatever, yeah, it's really personalized based on having done some research. And the key is have fewer prospects and fewer accounts, but sell way more. Do you know the profit on an expansion sale in SaaS is 64 times higher than a new business sale? You get to keep profit, you don't get to keep revenue. Okay, Geordie, sorry about that. Oh, fabulous. Okay, well, guys, you've got the links. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Laura. Very much looking forward to working with you. You too, Abdul.
Likewise.
Fabulous. So, Miss Multiverse, what do you do?